In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in February. Hey guys, it's Emma. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in February. First, we're going to get into some stats of the month of February. So I read a total of 7 books. The genres that I read were 4 romance books and 3 thrillers. I read a total of 2,341 pages, and the average rating for the month was 3.43. So kind of in the middle. Not the best reading month I've ever had. Yeah, a lot of the books I read in February, they were kind of just like mid. Nothing too crazy. I had probably 2 4-star books, but nothing above that, so kind of rough, but not terrible. Not anything below 3 stars, so I'll take it. So we're literally gonna get right into it. We have 7 books to talk about. We don't want to be here for too long. So the first book I read this month was Addicted for Now by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is the 3rd book in the Addicted series. This follows Lily and, why am I forgetting his name? Lo. If you've read the first book, or if you don't know, the first book is basically them trying to navigate their addictions. He is addicted to alcohol and she is addicted to sex. So it's a very hard dynamic, especially that they are together. So in the first book, you see them kind of struggle with that. And in the novella, you see him in rehab and how she is kind of dealing with it without him. And then in this book, he's back from rehab. He is much better, but she obviously is finding it a little bit more hard because being addicted to alcohol is obviously more common than being addicted to sex. So it's so much harder for her because at the end of the day, sex is a normal thing. It's harder for her to navigate it, but now that they're together and their relationship is stable, they're able to help each other through their addictions. And I really liked this book because you see them more as a unit instead of like individuals, because in the first book they were more like individuals kind of fighting for their own addictions, and you know, they didn't really understand each other. But in this book, you see them understand each other more, help each other through their addictions, and you also see more of the family in here, which is getting me more excited to read the rest of the series, because you see Rose and Connor, which I think their book is the next that I have to read. You see more of Rose and Connor in here, Daisy and Reich, all of them coming together to make this like found family already in the 3rd book. So I can't wait to read the rest of the series. But I ended up giving this book 4 stars. Nothing too crazy, but it was a good book. It was nice to see the romance. I really do like them, and the plot of this book was interesting. There's like something that's going on throughout this whole book that they're kind of like going through together. Yeah, you see Lo become more of like a man, I feel like in the first book he is a man, but he's dealing with his own stuff and he's not really worried about Lily. But in this book you see him be so much more protective over Lily, and it's so nice to read about after seeing how they were in the first book. Yeah, honestly, really like this book, and I can't wait to see what the rest of the series is gonna look like, because I think I'm really gonna enjoy it. So that was the first book I read. The next book I read in February was Set on You. I read this on my Kindle, and I gave this book 3 stars. It was kind of just like a mid book. It was nothing too crazy. I wanted to read it because I had read X's and O's by this author last year. The year before that. It was a cute book. I think I gave that one 3.5 stars, but I decided to come back and read the first book in the series because I didn't realize that it was like a whole series. It's called the Influencer series. So I read the first book, which is about the sister and the guy is like a firefighter. I remember them being mentioned in that book, so I was like, okay, I kind of already know who these characters are, and I actually really enjoyed the female main character. I think she is honestly what I enjoyed the most about the book. She was very realistic with how she handled all her situations. She's very independent, which I really liked to see, because I feel like in most rom-com books, obviously it's good to like rely on a man or whatever, but this female main character, she was very like, I could do this myself. I don't really need a man in my life. Like, I could go through life being fine. And when she starts like liking this character, she's like, okay, maybe I kind of like him, but do I need him? No. Do I want him? Maybe. And yeah, it was honestly really nice to see. I did like the male main character. I think just at times throughout the whole book, it was just a little bit cringy. You're gonna have to deal with that when it comes to like these little rom-com books. But yeah, nothing too crazy about this book. It was cute, wasn't amazing, wasn't terrible, just like kind of right in the middle. And I'm also trying to stop myself from giving books like 3.25 stars. By the end of the year, I'm not even gonna remember it. Like, I'm only giving books 0.25 or 0.75 if I genuinely like feel it in my bones. And this book, I was gonna give it 3.25 because I did enjoy it a little bit, but I also was like, am I gonna remember at the end of the year if I really did give this book 3.25 stars? Like, I don't really know. So I just gave this book 3 stars and left it at that. So yeah, that was the second book I read this month. That was also the first book I decided to read in my video where I was reading books with pink and red covers. So we're kind of getting into those books now. In that video, I definitely talked more in depth about how I felt about these books. So these are kind of like summaries on how I felt. But the next book I read was If Only I Had Told Her. This was the book that came after If He Had Been With Me. Basically in that book, you see 2 characters that they were childhood best friends, and they kind of grow apart when they get to high school because they have these different friend groups. They kind of change, but at the end of the day, they still kind of missed each other. But then something happens at the end, which you know at the beginning of the book, and it's just extremely heartbreaking. And this book is kind of like what happened after that. But in the first few pages, in the first 150 pages, you get Finn's point of view, which was the male main character in If He Had Been With Me. I honestly really liked reading his point of view and seeing how he felt about Autumn. I would have loved to have his point of view in the original book If He Had Been With Me, but it wasn't. So reading in his point of view in this book was really nice to see. I have honestly so much annotations from his point of view because I was just like, wow, like the way these characters felt for each other was just so strong. And then obviously when you think about what happened, it's like, it really gets you. The other 2 point of views in this book were Jack and Autumn. Jack was Finn's best friend, and Jack was Finn's best friend, and you kind of just see like how he dealt with it after the situation happened. But I don't know, I feel like it was kind of random to get his point of view just because in If He Had Been With Me, he wasn't like a prominent character. Like he was definitely there as as Finn's best friend. It wasn't like, oh my god, we need his point of view. Like it was just like whatever, but it was nice reading like his point of view and how he felt about like his best friend, but at the same time, like, was it needed? Probably not. And then also Autumn, like, I guess it is nice to see where she is after everything, but again, was it needed? Not really. And I feel like this whole book was just a very big epilogue book, which I guess is the point, but the big question is, was it really needed? I don't think so. It was nice to read about. I gave this book 3.5 stars because of course I do love these characters, and the story in If He Had Been With Me was just so strong and so heartbreaking. I gave that book 4.5 stars. So obviously I really loved that book. Seeing these characters and obviously reading Finn's point of view in the beginning was just so nice to read about. It just felt like a big epilogue book that wasn't entirely needed. So yeah, that's why I gave this book 3.5 stars, because it was good, but was it needed? Maybe not. Then the next book I read was The Housemaid's Secret. This is the second book in the Housemaid series. Is that what it's called? The Housemaid series? I don't know. The first book is The Housemaid, and I loved The Housemaid. I thought that book was so good. The plot twist at the end, it was just so good. I bought this book a while ago and I decided it was finally time to read it. I read this book and I did enjoy it. I was a little bit confused with the timeline at the beginning of the book. I thought it was taking place right after The Housemaid, but then randomly in like the 5th chapter, I think it's like, oh, this is actually like 4 years later The Housemaid takes place. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I was kind of lost for the first like few chapters of the book, and then I realized that this is taking place a little bit after. Basically in this book, you're following Millie work for a new family. In The Housemaid, if you know what happens, you know what happens. The family she works for, she needs to kind of get out of that situation, and then after that she had been putting herself in situations purposely to help families, like act like a housemaid, and instead she's actually helping them get out of certain situations. So I think she like retired from that or something. She was like, I don't really need to do that anymore, or she hadn't gotten any call or any jobs for that recently, so she just wanted a normal job. So she goes and she works as an actual housemaid in a place, and it's like this rich family. She thinks it's so sus. She thinks the husband is very sus. I feel like my problem, if you want to say it's a problem, but what I felt about this book is that 50% through it, we kind of already knew like everything that was happening. We already knew who like the villain of the book was gonna be. Then the rest of the book, it was kind of just like following along like what's gonna happen and what Millie's gonna do about the situation. So that's what was different about this book than The Housemaid, because The Housemaid, it's like you don't know what's happening for the majority of the book, but like you have your suspicions, and then the end, it's like this huge plot twist that you didn't even think of, and it's just like a crazy turning point. But this book, everything kind of happens in like 50%, and you're like, wait, that's the problem in the situation? Like, oh wait, I can't say that. Like, we find out who the problem is in the situation, and that is already crazy, but then it's like 50% through the book, so you're like, what's happening the rest of the book. And I will say the plot twist towards the end, they weren't crazy, but it was like, whoa, that's a little bit crazy. I didn't feel anything crazy about this book. I think I was definitely more interested in The Housemaid, but this one wasn't bad either. I gave this book 3.5 stars, so I did enjoy it, but it wasn't like anything amazing like any other thriller books I read before. Yeah, honestly, the villain in this book, I kind of loved this person. Like, they were definitely crazy and evil, but the stuff they would do and say, I would just like laugh. Yeah, this book wasn't terrible, just not the best thriller book I've ever read. Then the last book I read in the pink and red covers video was Beg, Borrow, or Steal. I think this is definitely my favorite book that I read this month, maybe. I don't think I've stopped thinking about this book and these characters and the man in this book. It was just too good. I gave this book 4 stars. This is the 3rd book in the Rome, Kentucky series. First, there's When in Rome, then Practice Makes Perfect, and then this book. This is about Emily. She is the oldest sister of the girls, and then her brother is Noah, which he's the oldest sibling. The male main character is Jack. They're both 2nd grade teachers, and I will say, you get told they're 2nd grade teachers, like on the back, and I found out like on TikTok they're 2nd grade teachers, but you don't really get to see them be teachers, so that was a part of the book that I was like, I feel like it would be so interesting to see that dynamic, like them in the school, kind of not really liking each other and like that tension. It's okay. Basically, Jack moved away because he was marrying this girl, and then all of a sudden he's not, and he wants to come back to Rome, Kentucky. And Emily's like, why is he coming back? I don't like him, but he's so charming that the whole town is gonna like him, but I don't want the whole town to like him because they're supposed to like me because this is my town. So they have had this like enemies type of thing going on since college, when their first interaction is him spilling coffee on her, and then he automatically tries to flirt with her, and she's like, you're gonna try and flirt with me after you just poured coffee all over me? I don't think so. So after that interaction, she's like, I do not like this guy. Like, he really tried to charm me after spilling coffee on me. They have this kind of like, they don't really like each other thing going on, and honestly, I really did enjoy their dynamic because it's more on her side that she doesn't really like him, and then when you get to his point of view, it's like, wait, you kind of are in love with her. And I love that in books. I love when it's so clear that the male main character likes the female main character so much more, and he's trying to get like her to like him because he doesn't really know what he's supposed to do in that situation. And I will say, I do wish that we got more of his point of view. I feel like majority of the book is in Emily's point of view, and I feel like if we were able to see more of Jack's side and perspective on things, it would have made the book so much better for sure. Because like I said, I loved going into his point of view and seeing how much he actually did like her, and like the little things that he would do just to be like, oh, like I did this, is she gonna like me a little bit more? Like, it's so cute. So I wish we got more of his point of view because I think that would have bumped the rating up for this book more. But yeah, like I said, I loved this book, gave it 4 stars. I just think the attention to detail that he had when it came to her was just perfect. And yeah, the romance was really cute. I also love this little small town vibes, and seeing the characters from the other books is so nice, and I'm so excited for the next book because I think it's Madison. I think Madison is her name. That's the other sister, the middle sister, and then it's like their neighbor, James. You could also tell he's like also in love with Madison, and Madison is completely clueless. And again, I love books like that, so I can't wait to get to that book and read about that. But yeah, this book was really good. Then the next book I read this month was Rock, Paper, Scissors. It was on my TBR, so I randomly decided, why not? Let's read it. I read this on my Kindle, and it's a thriller book, so I was excited to get into it also because everyone said this is like one of the best thriller books they've ever read. It has a lot of good ratings on Goodreads. I've seen a lot on TikTok, so I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna like this book. It's about this couple that they've had some problems in their marriage. The female main character, Amelia, she wins like a getaway trip or something to like a chapel. She's like, oh, let's go to this chapel, getaway, fix our marriage, right? But they both don't say it's to fix her marriage, but they kind of know like their marriage needs to be fixed. And the male main character, what's his name? Adam, he has like facial blindness, so he looks at a person and he doesn't really see their face, and like if he has seen this person before, he won't be able to know that. Like, he won't know that he has seen this person before, whatever. So you see their dynamic, and they go to this chapel. They're kind of sussed at first, like, this chapel is like very old, it's abandoned, but whatever, we're gonna stay in it. Throughout this book, a bunch of like weird stuff starts happening to them, and they're like, I feel like we need to get out of here. And I was like, finally, like, yes, get out of there. Then they lose their dog, and that's basically what's keeping them there, which honestly, I was mad about at first, like, why don't you guys just get out of there? But if I lost my dog too, I wouldn't even leave, no matter what. So that was honestly a good like point to make in there, like we're not gonna leave because we lost our dog. Because if they weren't gonna leave for any other reason, I would have been like, you guys are just dumb, honestly. Yeah, and then you get introduced to like this other character in the book that you're like, who is this person? Why are we getting their point of view, and why are they like so important? And then obviously at the end it kind of gets revealed why. Also, you're getting these like past letters that have been written on every year of their anniversary. At first I was kind of like, why do we need these? And then at the end it all makes sense. I gave this book 3 stars, which it is disappointing because I feel like everyone gave this book like 4 stars and up, 5 stars, like they loved this book. But I feel like throughout the whole book I was just so confused on what was happening. It was just going by very slow. Things kept happening that they were like, what was that? Wait, that was really weird. Or, you know, it just kept happening and I was like, okay, why is everything weird? Can we try and figure something out? Like, I don't know. And then I feel like when it got to like 75%, it started picking up, like we're kind of catching hints on what's happening, and everything started to like click and just make sense. That's when I started to enjoy the book a lot more. But I feel like more than the first half of the book, I was just confused and it was a little slow. But like sometimes it's okay for a thriller book to be slow majority of the time, but it wasn't even just slow, it was just like it wasn't getting anywhere. So yeah, that's why I was kind of like confused and bored for most of the book. But yeah, gave this book 3 stars, not 3.5 stars, 3 stars. Yeah, kind of a disappointment, but it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't amazing. It was kind of just like in the middle. Then the last book I read in February was The Housemaid's Wedding. I gave this book 3 stars. It was honestly a little novella book. So it was nothing crazy. It was like 70 something pages. You follow Millie, how she's having her wedding. She's getting married to Enzo. The morning of her wedding, she gets a weird call and she's basically getting threatened, and she's like, that's weird. That's probably just like a husband that I got his wife away from him and he's mad. So she just like ignored it. But then she kept getting calls and she kept seeing weird people all day that she was like, okay, what's happening? Like, I'm kind of scared. It's my wedding day. I don't want anything bad to happen. So she's kind of freaking out. And even me, while I was reading, I was like, wait, I'm kind of getting a little scared for her, honestly. With how short the book was, I think the pacing was like fine. I will say though, the plot twist at the end and the ending, it was nothing crazy. I thought it was gonna be like a little bit more interesting. Since it's a novella book and it's not like a mandatory book that like all of the housemaid readers should read, I should have assumed that there wasn't gonna be like a crazy plot twist or the villain wasn't gonna be like anyone that we really knew. I was disappointed by the plot twist at the end. I was kind of like, oh, is that it? That's who we were worried about? Whatever. Yeah, wasn't anything crazy. Like I said, gave this book 3 stars. I don't usually rate novellas higher than that because they're super short and sweet. So the ending, kind of underwhelming. I honestly was kind of getting annoyed by her in this book because she just tried to do everything herself instead of just talking to Enzo. I will say, Enzo is giving me really sus vibes from this novella, and I think I'm gonna read the last book soon just to see like what's going on, because I'm very sus over him and I feel like something might get revealed in the 3rd book, so I'm interested. Yeah, that was the last book I read in February, and those are all the books that I read in February. I only read 4 physical books and 3 that were on my Kindle, so I think I'm honestly doing better with reading physical books because I'm not buying books while I'm reading. I will say I did buy Beg, Borrow, or Steal this month, or February, and I also bought Kiss the Sky, but I plan on reading that book soon. So I'm buying books, but I'm also reading off my physical TBR, but I'm not buying that many books is the thing. So I'm slowly getting books off my physical TBR, which is helping because my goal for my birthday is to literally go on a shopping spree in Barnes & Noble and buy a bunch of books. So I'm hoping by my birthday I have at least like 10 books on my physical TBR, and then I could go buy more. But we'll see. Those are all the books that I read in February. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on your post notifications so you know when I post my next video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!